Captain's log, stardate 63478.4. I have invited some unique individuals on my ship in order to recount and share some of my memories of growing up on watching the Star Trek series. What's up, my number ones? And welcome aboard. Allow me to direct you to the view screen. So you may or may not know this about me, but I am what others would call a Trekkie. That means I am a big fan of Star Trek. If you don't know what that is, let me tell you. Created by Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek is a series that is set in the future, where humanity sets out on a new mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. My life as a Trekkie began in my early years in Michigan. My parents exposed me to the series as a kid, and it fascinated me. I have only recently binge-watched all the Star Trek series and all of the movies, from the original series to Enterprise. My binge-watching experience has caused me to recall my first experiences when I first saw some of the episodes. So the first series of Star Trek that I originally saw was The Next Generation. I remember liking the design of the Enterprise D, and I ended up liking it so much that I played with a spatula because it looked like the Enterprise, at least to me. I was also watching Reading Rainbow at the same time, and I liked how LeVar Burton was in both shows. As a matter of fact, my favorite Reading Rainbow episode was when he took us backstage to the TNG set, which helped me to understand some of the filmmaking secrets. Another favorite character from that show was Worf, because he looked kind of scary, but you knew he was a good guy. Sort of like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. I also liked Data because he was an android longing to be human. And I also liked Picard because he's the captain. I remember my parents getting me a toy phaser for Christmas one year. However, I lost it and I never found it again. After rewatching TNG, I was able to better understand what the characters were talking about, and I was able to appreciate the dialogue. I missed Deep Space Nine the first time around because my parents didn't like the Ferengi. However, now that I've seen the entirety of DS9, I can say that it's one of the best Star Trek series. The characters of that series was one of the best that I've seen. I liked how different Sisko is from Picard. I enjoyed Dr. Bashir and Chief O'Brien's friendship. I was able to get a better understanding of business and economics through Quark. I enjoyed how Quark and Odo's relationship grew. I learned how surprisingly likable Garrick is. And I liked how they ended up making Worf a part of the crew. But let's not forget the best character of DS9, Morn. And also, the main thing that I enjoyed about DS9 was the Dominion War. They showed us some of the best battles in the series, but it also wasn't afraid to show the ugly side of war. I remember my first time watching Voyager was when I was in around the second grade. However, the episodes I saw were reruns and were aired somewhat out of order, but I was still able to enjoy Voyager. My favorite characters were Tom Paris for how cool he was, Kim for being best friends with Tom, Chakotay for his ability to command, the Doctor for being himself, and Neelix for the way he was very nice and able to put a smile on my face. My parents were pregnant with my baby sister at the time, and they decided to name her after one of the main characters. They named her Seven. And around season 6, I remember the first time I saw The Rock.
It's about drive, it's about power. We stay hungry, we devour. Put in the work, put in the hours, and take what's ours.
After rewatching Voy, I was able to better understand Janeway's resolve to protect her crew and to get the ship back home. I was also able to better understand the chemistry between every member of the crew, and I understood how the series finale would bring the watchers to tears.
Oh man, I thought I was strong enough to get through this again, but I'm not. Oh, Captain Janeway, your mission ended too soon. Too soon.
After binge watching the TNG era series, I'm convinced that the best character out of those series is Lieutenant Reginald Barclay. He started out struggling with a hollow addiction, and the other officers were making fun of him behind his back because of it. However, when the senior officers gave him a chance to show his creative genius, Reg was able to go on to do bigger and better things. He helped the Enterprise E crew to fix Zefram Cochrane's warp ship to make sure the first contact was able to take place. And he was able to establish contact with Voy when they were still in the Delta Quadrant. And next to him, one of Starfleet's most hardworking engineers was Chief Miles O'Brien. He started out as an ops officer on the Enterprise D, then switched to working on the transporter for the same ship. He was reassigned as a chief engineer on DS9, and he was the one who moved the entire station to the mouth of the Bajoran wormhole. And he had the chance to meet Captain Kirk. Now, on Star Trek Online, O'Brien's the chief engineer of the Enterprise F. So the first time I saw the original series of Star Trek was when I was in elementary school. My parents borrowed the DVD collection from the library. On the first episode, I recognized the intro narrative from TNG, but the intro music was different. I remember when my sister and I first saw the Klingons in this series, we were confused because they had smooth foreheads. And for a series that came out in the 60s, it was quite progressive and ahead of its time. It featured a diverse cast, and it taught the importance of moralities. It was one of the first series on TV to show an interracial kiss. Fun fact, the actors went out of their way to make sure the kiss made it onto Final Cut. I didn't like Spock at first, but as I continued watching the series, I came to like him because of his ability to offer scientific knowledge, along with Kirk for being the best captain, Scotty for being the best engineer, and McCoy for being himself. It was only until recently that I discovered just how much of an impact Uhura had made.
I said, oh, I ran through the house, I screaming, hey, come quick, everybody. There's a black lady on television, and she ain't no maid.
So the first time I saw the TNG movies, I was also still in elementary school. I watched them with my older sister. We did see them without watching Generations at first, so we were a little confused when the crew was in a new ship, but we did enjoy the movies. We saw Insurrection at a matinee, and we laughed at the villains. No! We saw First Contact on video, and my sister thought the aliens that made the First Contact were Romulans, but I knew they were Vulcans. We saw Nemesis together, but it wasn't that memorable. And I was able to get around to watching the TOS movies when I was in junior high, and I was able to see that the even-numbered movies were better than the odd-numbered movies. And finally, there's Enterprise.
It's been a long road getting from there to here.
It also came out when I was also in elementary. However, when I first saw it, I didn't get the full context of the show, and I thought it took place after Voy. I figured out a while later that it actually takes place about 100 years before TOS. I didn't see many episodes when it was on, but I do remember the ones that I saw. The earliest one was where Trip somehow gets pregnant, and the last one was where, in the Mirror universe, the crew steal the Defiant, which was the ship that disappeared in the TOS episode. And after rewatching Enterprise, I saw just how much faith of the heart the crew had. When I started in high school, the first of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies came out. An unpopular opinion, I like how they were able to reboot the story by setting it in an alternate reality. That way, the original story is kept intact without ruining the established canon. I haven't seen the 70s Star Trek animated series until recently. Hanna-Barbera animation quality aside, I saw this show as a way for the writers to be more creative in a way that wasn't possible in TOS. And now, the latest Star Trek shows are both animated series, and you know how much I like animation. Star Trek Lower Decks is about the least important crew members on the least important ship in the fleet. However, the show is so meta that it even references the animated series. Can you believe that? Star Trek Prodigy takes place sometime after the events of Voy, where a small group of young aliens find a Federation starship, and they use it to escape a mining colony in the Delta Quadrant. To me, this show seems like to be a way to get the younger kids to be introduced to a show that a generation before them had grown up watching. Both shows have their own animation styles, and there are no other Star Trek shows that embraces the true spirit of Star Trek to this day. And now I am currently playing Star Trek Online, a free-to-play game that lets you explore the Star Trek universe. It takes place soon after the Romulan homeworld was destroyed by the supernova that sent Spock and Nero to the alternate JJ reality. And in the game, you'll be able to customize and create your own characters, as well as your own ships. And you get to interact with some of the iconic characters who are played by their own original actors. However, there is no such thing as a free lunch for being a Trekkie. You see, before the whole Star Trek reboot, being a Trekkie was cause enough for ridicule. And I was already a target of ridicule. Because I'm Kelvin and everything I said or did was cause enough for the other kids to make fun of me. And being a Trekkie didn't help, because it seemed like everybody else went out of their way to show that they preferred Star Wars over Star Trek. And looking back now, it makes sense, because Star Trek is meant for smart people anyways. But when the first JJ film came out, those who saw it decided to lighten up. I was able to put my creative genius to use when I wanted to recreate the starships. I used duct tape and cardboard to make the ships from Star Trek, and I was pretty good at it too. However, I haven't used that medium in years, but I'm still confident in my abilities. In conclusion, Star Trek has shown through Gene Roddenberry's vision that humanity can have a bright future. One without the threat of war, poverty, disease, or prejudice. So what else can I say about Star Trek? At this point, I can only recommend you giving it a watch for yourself and explore all that it has to offer. Until the next video, live long and prosper.